What they're not telling you about Neuralink. Picture this. It's 2:27 a.m. A paralyzed veteran lying in bed suddenly feels an urge he wants to text his daughter. But here's the thing, he doesn't reach for his phone. He doesn't use voice commands, he doesn't even move. Instead, he simply thinks the words, and they appear on screen. This isn't science fiction. This actually happened in 2024 when Nolan Arbaugh became Neuralink's first human patient. But before you get too excited or too terrified about brain chips and mind-reading tech, there's something critical you need to understand about what's really happening with Neuralink. Because the truth? It's far more complex, more fascinating, and frankly more unsettling than Elon Musk's tweets would have you believe. Stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll discover the one thing about Neuralink that nobody's talking about, and it changes everything. Let's cut through the noise. Neuralink isn't trying to give you superpowers. At least not yet. Here's what it actually is, a brain-computer interface, or BCI, that uses incredibly thin electrodes. Thinner than a human hair, implanted directly into your brain tissue. These threads contain over 1,000 electrodes that can detect and record the electrical signals your neurons fire when you think, move, or feel. Think of your brain as a massive city with billions of residents' neurons constantly communicating through electrical signals. Neuralink is basically wiretapping those conversations. The device itself? It's called the Link. About the size of a large coin, it sits flush with your skull. A surgical robot is used because human hands literally aren't steady enough to implant those hair-thin threads into specific brain regions. But here's where it gets interesting. Neuralink isn't the first BCI, not even close. Universities have been working on brain-computer interfaces for decades. Patients have controlled robotic arms, typed with their minds, and even played video games using just thoughts since the early 2000s. So what makes Neuralink different? 3 things: scale, speed, and ambition. Previous BCIs used maybe 100 electrodes. Neuralink uses over 1,000, and they're planning for 10,000. That's like going from a flip phone camera to an 8K cinema camera. The resolution of what they can see in your brain is unprecedented. The speed? Their chip can process brain signals in real time, with minimal lag. Previous systems had delays that made them frustrating to use. And the ambition? Well, that's where things get complicated. Because while everyone's debating whether we'll become cyborgs or Matrix-style superhumans, there's something happening right now with Neuralink that could fundamentally alter what it means to be disabled. To be conscious, and here's the part nobody's prepared for: what it means to be you. But first, let's talk about what's actually working. Remember Nolan Arbaugh, the paralyzed veteran I mentioned? In March 2024, he became the first human to receive Neuralink's implant. And within weeks, he was doing something extraordinary, playing online chess, browsing the internet, and even playing Civilization V, all using only his thoughts. He described it like using the Force from Star Wars, but let's be honest about the limitations. First, some of those implanted threads retracted from his brain tissue. Neuralink had to update the algorithm to compensate. Second, he can't control complex movements, yet just cursor control and clicking. Third, the system requires regular calibration. Still, for someone who hasn't moved their arms in years, being able to interact with technology independently, that's genuinely life-changing. Then came patient number 2 in August 2024. Within just 5 minutes of turning on the device, he was using it to design 3D objects in Kata software and play Counter-Strike 2.5 minutes. Think about that. The learning curve went from weeks to minutes between patients. That's exponential improvement. Here's the real impact happening right now. For paralysis patients, BCIs like Neuralink offer independence. Controlling devices, communicating, maybe even one day regaining movement through robotic limbs or electrical stimulation of their own muscles. For neurological conditions, early research suggests BCIs could help treat depression, OCD, epilepsy, and Parkinson's by detecting and potentially modulating abnormal brain activity. For locked-in syndrome, imagine being fully conscious but unable to move or speak. BCIs could give these patients a voice, literally translating their thoughts into words. This isn't hype. These are real problems affecting millions of people. But, and this is crucial, we're still in the absolute earliest days. This is like judging the internet's potential based on a 1995 dial-up connection. Now we get to the part that should keep you up at night. Because once you put a computer in someone's brain, you're not just solving medical problems. You're opening a Pandora's box of ethical questions that we, as a society, are completely unprepared to answer. Question 1. Who owns your brain data? Right now, tech companies collect data on what you click, what you buy, what you watch. But Neuralink collects data on what you think. Your raw neural activity, your intentions before you act, your emotional states, your memories. Who owns that data? Can it be sold? Can it be subpoenaed? Can it be hacked? Elon Musk says the data stays encrypted and private. But we've heard that before from every tech company right before the data breaches and scandals. Question 2. What happens when BCIs become elective? Right now, Neuralink is focused on medical applications. But Musk has been very clear. The end goal is human enhancement, telepathy, downloaded skills, expanded memory. Sounds cool, right? But imagine a world where some people have BCIs and others don't. Where brain-enhanced workers outperform natural humans. Where wealthy kids get cognitive implants that make them smarter, faster, better. We're not talking about smartphones anymore. We're talking about literally upgrading the human brain. The inequality that creates, its biological classism. Question 3. Can we be hacked? Every computer can be hacked. Every single one. So, what happens when the computer is in your brain? When someone could potentially access your thoughts, manipulate your emotions, or even control your actions. This isn't paranoid speculation. Cybersecurity experts have already demonstrated vulnerabilities in medical implants like pacemakers. BCIs are exponentially more complex and more dangerous if compromised. Question 4. What happens to identity? Here's the philosophical nightmare. If you can upload memories, download skills, and share thoughts directly with others, where does you end and the technology begin? Are you still the same person? Or are you becoming something else entirely? Some neuroscientists argue that identity is just the pattern of neural connections in your brain. If those patterns can be altered, copied, or shared digitally, what does that mean for consciousness itself? Remember when I said there's something about Neuralink nobody's talking about? Here it is. Neuralink isn't just a medical device company. It's a data company. Think about it. The real value isn't in the hardware, the chip, the threads, the surgical robot that can be copied. The real value is in the massive amount of neural data they're collecting. Every thought pattern, every neural signature, every brain state from every patient. They're building the world's first map of the human brain in action. At scale, in real time. That data could lead to incredible breakthroughs. Curing Alzheimer's, treating mental illness, understanding consciousness itself. But it also creates the most intimate surveillance system ever conceived. And here's the kicker. We're choosing to install it, willingly. So, is Neuralink science fiction or imminent reality? The answer is both. The medical applications are real, happening now, and genuinely life-changing for people who need them. We're watching the birth of a technology that could end paralysis, restore sight, and treat previously incurable brain conditions. But the broader vision, the transhumanist future of enhanced humans, telepathic communication, and downloaded consciousness? That's still decades away, maybe longer, maybe never. The real question isn't can we do this? We clearly can. The question is, should we? Because once we start down this path, there's no going back. You can't uninvent brain-computer interfaces. You can't put this genie back in the bottle. We need to start having serious conversations, not just as tech enthusiasts, but as a society about regulations and safety standards, data privacy and ownership, equitable access versus technological inequality, and the definition of human identity and consciousness. These aren't abstract philosophical questions anymore. They're practical problems we need to solve in the next 5 to 10 years. Here's my take. Neuralink and BCIs represent one of the most significant technological developments in human history. Not because of what they can do today, but because of what they make possible tomorrow. The real impact? It's not just about helping paralyzed people walk or blind people see, though that alone would be revolutionary. The real impact is that we're approaching a fork in the road of human evolution. One path leads to enhanced humans with unprecedented capabilities. The other leads to a dystopian nightmare of hacked minds and biological inequality. Which path we take depends entirely on the choices we make right now. So here's my question for you. If a Neuralink chip could cure a medical condition you had, would you get one? What about for cognitive enhancement? Where's your line? Drop a comment below. I genuinely want to know where people stand on this. And if you found this deep dive valuable, hit that subscribe button. I'm covering the tech that's actually changing the world, beyond the hype, beyond the headlines. Because the future isn't coming. It's already here. We just need to decide what we're going to do about it.